All right, welcome in everyone to another deep dive.
Yeah, always exciting to jump into these, especially with someone like we have today.
Right. And today we're really diving into this world, this artistic universe created by Bob Camblin.
I'm still kind of amazed by,
Well, we're going to get into all that, but he's kind of this enigmatic figure, right? This artist who spanned decades, but it's like he almost resists easy categorization. You know what I mean?
oh, absolutely. And that's what makes him so interesting to explore, right? You can't just pin him down to one style or period.
Exactly. And the thing is, he was so highly regarded in the art world.
Oh, for sure. You just look at the respect he garnered from fellow artists, critics, everyone, really.
But there's this mystique around him,
Yeah,
right?
there's this, like, puzzle box
Yeah.
element to his personality and his work.
And that's what we're going to try to unpack today. We're going to try to explore his thoughts on art, on life, and on creativity itself, based on what we have.
Well, and speaking of what we have, we've got a treasure trove of material for this deep dive.
We really do.
We have quotes, reflections straight from Camblin himself, a biography that traces his journey through life and art.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. It really delves into the key moments.
Oh, and we can't forget the artwork. And not just any artwork. We have in-depth descriptions and analyses, notably for a piece called Teachworth Balcony, which even has a whole YouTube video dedicated to it.
Oh, and we've got reviews, forwards from books that featured his art, so we get all these different perspectives, different voices chiming in.
So yeah, for this deep dive, your mission, if you choose to accept it, which I think you already have by being here,
They're already here.
exactly, is to join us as we sift through all these layers and try to pinpoint, really distill the essence of Camblin's artistic philosophy.
It's like we're trying to solve a mystery, right?
Exactly. What were those recurring themes, those threads that connect his work? And by the end, we hope you walk away with a much richer understanding of this artist and the world he created.
Well, I know I'm already hooked. So, with an artist as multifaceted as Bob Camblin, where do we even begin?
Well, like with most things, maybe we start at the beginning. Camblin's story begins in Oklahoma, 1928.
Okay, so right off the bat, his roots are in a place that's often associated with a certain rugged individualism, a connection to the land, a history that's deeply ingrained in the American landscape.
Exactly, and that's interesting because it seems like art was already a huge part of his life from the get-go.
Like baked into his DNA almost.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Both his parents were artists themselves, so he had this early exposure to various mediums.
I mean, that's got to have some impact, right? Being surrounded by creativity from such a young age.
Oh, undoubtedly. And even his role as art director for his high school yearbook, I mean, that's a pretty clear sign, right?
Yeah, like he's not just dabbling, there's a real inclination there.
Right, right. And speaking of his early years, the biography really emphasizes how his upbringing in Ponca City, Oklahoma, left a lasting impression.
What's fascinating is they point to the Marland Estate, this opulent mansion from the oil boom era.
Oh, I've seen pictures. It's incredible. You can just feel the history, this lavish lifestyle, the boom and bust cycle.
Exactly. And then there's a Pioneer Woman statue, also commissioned by Marland. It's so iconic, such a powerful image of resilience and strength, but also very much tied to a specific time and place.
And the biography suggests that elements reminiscent of the pioneer woman, like these double V shapes, might be subtly woven into his later work, maybe even a nod to his mother, Viva Camblin.
Wow, that's a really cool connection. So right there you have themes of ambition, legacy, this juxtaposition of grandeur and the everyday, all potentially stemming from those formative years in Ponca City.
Absolutely. Those early influences can be so powerful, shaping the way an artist sees the world. And it wasn't just the environment. He also had a pivotal friendship with another artist, Forrest Harrisberger.
Okay, so this isn't just a solitary journey. There's a shared path from the very start.
Right. They served together in the Korean War and then both ended up at the Kansas City Art Institute, KCAI.
Wow, that's a bond forged through some pretty intense experiences.
Right. It makes you wonder how their shared experiences, their conversations, shaped their art, their outlook on life.
You know, it's interesting. Beyond his formal training, Camblin was also a very engaged reader. The sources highlight his fascination with thinkers like Ralph Waldo Emerson, the wisdom of the I Ching, even the concise beauty of haiku and haiga.
Haiga, that's where you pair a painting with a haiku, right?
Yeah, like a perfect marriage of visual and written art, capturing a fleeting moment and observation.
So you have this guy who's not just absorbing techniques, he's delving into philosophy, Eastern thought, poetry. It speaks to a really broad intellectual curiosity.
It's like he's drawing inspiration from all these different sources, weaving them into his own artistic tapestry.
Absolutely. And then you have this turning point, this pivotal experience when he receives a Fulbright scholarship to Italy. It seems like this period was truly transformative for him.
Yeah, the biography really emphasizes the impact of both the Uffizi Gallery in Florence and the Capuchin Catacombs in Palermo.
Okay, those are two very different environments. One, a celebration of Renaissance masterpieces, and the other, well, a bit more macabre with all those preserved remains.
It's like he's being pulled in these opposite directions: beauty, immortality, art, and the passage of time.
Right, and the biography specifically mentions Botticelli's Birth of Venus and Primavera as key inspirations.
Birth of Venus. There's even this interesting connection drawn to KPFD radio back in Houston. It's described as representing a Neoplatonic ideal of love, which apparently resonated with the station's rock and roll listeners.
I love that. So you have this classical art piece speaking to a totally different audience
Yeah.
across time and cultures.
Exactly. And then his own painting, Flora, inspired by Botticelli's Primavera, is noted as going beyond just the Renaissance style, incorporating layers of hidden imagery, adding his own twists.
So even his early encounters with art history, he's not just copying, he's reinterpreting, adding layers of meaning.
Exactly. Okay, so we have Camblin, deep artistic roots, formal training, international experience, intellectual curiosity.
And then he comes back to the U.S. and starts teaching at places like the Ringling School of Art at the University of Illinois.
So he's both creating and educating, passing on his knowledge.
Right. So now I think it's time to dig deeper, to really unpack his artistic philosophy, those recurring themes that emerge from his writings and the interpretations of his work.
I'm ready. Let's get into it.
One of the most striking things you encounter is his embrace of paradox. Those seemingly contradictory ideas.
Yeah, like that quote where he says, "A trap that does not trap, a structure that stands but does not move."
It's like he's challenging the way we see things, suggesting that appearances can be deceiving.
Right. It's almost like he's saying limitations can be liberating, that structures can create space for freedom.
A really thought-provoking way of thinking about art, about life in general. And this ties into his view of the relationship between art and philosophy. A book review we have describes his art as a series of questions disguised as images, and philosophy as the ongoing attempt to answer them, even though definitive answers may never come.
It's like his art isn't giving you a solution, but prompting you to think, to question, to grapple with those big ideas.
And then you have the theme of transformation, metamorphosis,
Oh, yeah, this pops up a lot, right?
constantly. The biography highlights his use of symbols like scarecrows, lobster shells, empty larva shells.
I've always found the scarecrow imagery fascinating. There's something both familiar and unsettling about them.
Right, they stand guard, but they're also vulnerable. They're supposed to scare things away, but they also decay. They're subject to the elements.
And the lobster shells, the empty larva shells, those speak to cycles of growth, shedding old forms, emerging into something new.
Exactly. It's like he's fascinated by those transitions, those in-between spaces.
And this isn't just about passively looking at these things, right? He talks about the importance of seeing versus just looking.
Oh, that's a key distinction for him. There's that quote, "One must learn not to look, but to see." It's about going beyond the surface, actively engaging with what you're experiencing.
It's almost like a form of mindfulness, being present with the art, letting it speak to you.
Precisely. And this connects to his rejection of rigid interpretations. He wanted his art to speak directly to the soul, bypassing the need for purely intellectual analysis.
But does that mean any interpretation is valid? Did he ever address that? Like, what if someone completely missed the mark in how they saw his work?
It's a good question. And based on what we have, it seems like he really valued the individual experience of art.
So it's less about finding the right answer and more about that personal connection, how the art resonates with each viewer.
Right. It's about what it evokes in you, the thoughts, feelings, memories it triggers.
And it wasn't just about the finished product, the final artwork. He put a lot of emphasis on the creative process itself.
Oh, absolutely. He's quoted as saying, "Process and awareness of it cannot be failure." That's a powerful statement.
It's like he's saying the act of creation, of being present in that moment, is where the true value lies.
And he incorporated text into his work in really interesting ways. Sometimes it's informative, other times it feels like a deliberate obfuscation, like clues in a mystery.
Yeah, the biography mentions that the text may or may not directly relate to the visual elements. It could be clues or just abstract shapes for the viewer to decipher.
It's almost like he's giving you a puzzle within a puzzle.
And then there's this concept he talks about, the mystic switch. It's about that visceral reaction you have to art, that gut feeling, that sudden spark of recognition.
It's like that aha moment, even if you can't fully articulate it yet.
He also seemed to value a balance between intuition and logic, that sense of trusting your gut, but also applying critical thinking.
Yeah, it's not about choosing one over the other, but finding that equilibrium, that sweet spot.
Something that's really interesting, especially considering his nomadic period later on, is his critique of what he called consumer art.
He seemed to long for this unique, intimate connection with art, something that couldn't be mass-produced or easily consumed.
It's like he's pushing back against the commodification of art, the idea of art as a status symbol or a trendy object.
And his views on the art game,
Mm.
the whole system of galleries and museums, are really insightful. He wanted the artist to have control over the entire environment of an exhibition, to create a more holistic, immersive experience.
Yeah, it's about minimizing those external influences, letting the art speak for itself without distractions.
And there's this powerful recurring image in his work of turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones, literally depicted as jars of water.
Yeah, I love that imagery. It's about letting things settle, gaining clarity, finding your footing, even in the midst of chaos.
Exactly. It speaks to resilience, adaptability, learning from those challenges.
And underpinning all of this seems to be this understanding of the constant nature of change, of evolution. Nothing is static, everything is in flux.
And he had this interesting perspective on language, believing that words often fail to fully capture the essence of art.
He was more interested in evoking subjective states of mind, those internal experiences that go beyond verbal description.
And those hidden meanings, those secrets embedded within his work, they only reveal themselves through deeper observation.
So you have to really look, to be present, to engage with the work on multiple levels.
So now that we have a sense of Camblin's background, his influences, his philosophical leanings, let's dive into some of those specific quotes that really crystallize his unique way of thinking about art.
I'm ready. These are always so fascinating. They're like little windows into his mind.
One that jumps out immediately is, fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years perhaps. It's so simple, yet it speaks volumes about our human desire for permanence in a world that's constantly changing.
It's almost playful, right? Like he's acknowledging the irony that even forever has its limits.
Exactly. It's that subtle humor that makes it so poignant.
And then there's this quote, look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both. It's like he's drawing these unexpected connections between science, mysticism, philosophy, and art.
It suggests a certain unity, that these seemingly separate realms are all interconnected, all offering pathways to truth and understanding.
It's like he's encouraging us to see the world through multiple lenses, to find that common thread that runs through it all.
And his quote about embracing common sense
Yeah.
and striving for the perfectly average view of the universe, it's so thought-provoking.
It really is. It's like he's saying, find the beauty in the ordinary, in the balance, in the gray areas between extremes.
He continues, I think that will let me enjoy miracles on both sides of science and magic, and the nuances of the smear between the whiteness and the blackness, and hope that I can be around when the two meet in the near future and we have an intensely bright gray. He's not seeking absolutes, but embracing the complexities, the nuances, the messy in-between.
And there's a certain optimism there, right? Like he's excited about those moments of convergence when seemingly opposite ideas come together.
Absolutely. And then you have that very direct instruction, step off the train of thought. It's like a call to break free from those linear, rigid ways of thinking.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, get off the beaten path, explore new territory, let your mind wander.
And these two seemingly contradictory statements, when you think, don't act. When you act, don't think. It's like he's emphasizing the importance of focus, of being fully present in the moment.
Whether that moment calls for deep contemplation or decisive action, it's about giving it your full attention without the interference of the other.
And his perspective on the purpose of art seems to have evolved over time. There's that quote, art is not just images. Art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake.
It's like art becomes this essential tool for navigating life, for understanding ourselves, for finding meaning.
It's no longer just a purely aesthetic pursuit. It's something deeper, more vital.
Resist learning, learn to fail, learn to relax, learn to feel, learn how to really think. That's such a powerful statement against rote learning, against those rigid traditional educational models.
It's a call for experiential learning, for embracing mistakes, for developing emotional intelligence, for critical thinking.
It's about trusting your instincts, being open to new experiences, learning from those failures.
Mirrors are not magic. They just seem to be. Everyone is a mirror, and that is magic. Laugh, laugh, laugh. This is a simple statement, but it speaks to the interconnectedness of humanity, how we reflect back to each other, how we all play a part in this grand cosmic dance.
And that laughter at the end, it's like he's reminding us not to take ourselves too seriously, to find the joy in those connections.
And lastly, this incredibly compassionate reminder. In making the best of it, one should remember there are no mistakes. You are doing the best you can, and mistakes are nature's way of telling you to trust your instincts, or the next mistake could be really bad.
It's a reminder to be kind to ourselves, to recognize that we're all doing the best we can with what we have, and that mistakes are opportunities for growth, not reasons for self-flagellation.
It's about trusting that inner voice, learning from those missteps, and moving forward with a sense of self-compassion.
Okay, those were some truly profound insights into Camblin's mind, his philosophy. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a specific piece of his work, Teachworth Balcony.
Yeah, this one's particularly fascinating, partly because we have so much to work with, descriptions, a YouTube video analysis. It's like we can really dig in.
So, what do we know about this piece?
Well, it's described as this grid-like composition, 9 rectangular panels arranged in 3 rows, like a window pane almost.
Okay, so right away, we have this idea of fragmentation, multiple perspectives, a departure from a single unified view.
Right, and each panel shows a slightly different perspective of a balcony overlooking a tropical or coastal landscape.
It kind of reminds me of synthetic cubism, those fragmented viewpoints, or even those photo collages by David Hockney.
You get this sense of movement, of time passing, of capturing different moments within a single scene.
And the description mentions clouds, bursts of color in the sky, palm trees against a speckled backdrop.
And that blue and white balcony railing at the bottom with the words Teachworth Balcony subtly integrated.
There's also a lot of text scattered throughout. It's almost like a visual journal with words and images layered upon each other.
Yeah, the analysis even draws comparisons to artists like Julie Moretu, who incorporates text and abstract markings into her work.
And then there's this whole mystery surrounding the hidden crystal skull.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Apparently, someone actually found a crystal skull hidden within the depiction of the balcony railing.
Wow, that's wild. So the painting becomes this treasure map with those scattered text fragments, phrases like bill of goods, lost and found, and the mention of the crystal skull itself, all serving as potential clues.
It's like the artwork takes on this whole other dimension. It's not just a static image, it's an active participant in this unfolding narrative.
And from a Zen perspective, the balcony itself takes on a really symbolic meaning. It becomes this metaphor for our own limited perspectives, the boundaries we create for ourselves.
You have the railing representing those limitations, and then the vast open sky beyond, inviting us to look further, to expand our horizons.
It's like that line from the I Ching hexagram 20 about the importance of observation, of contemplation, which is also a great tie-in with Camblin's emphasis on seeing.
The YouTube video also talks about how the railing symbolizes humanly constructed limitations, while the sky and horizon hint at the boundless nature of existence.
It even brings in a reference to Lao Tzu, suggesting that the journey of seeking meaning is more important than actually finding the answer, just like the search for the crystal skull within the painting.
It's all about that process of discovery, of engaging with the mystery.
And the fragmented grid structure of the painting that mirrors the often fragmented nature of our own perception.
It's like he's challenging us to embrace those multiple perspectives, to piece together the whole picture from those individual fragments.
It really embodies that core Camblin idea of deeper truth being revealed through careful observation.
Okay, so we've talked about his individual work, but it's clear Camblin wasn't just a solitary artist working in a vacuum.
Right. He actively sought out collaborations, especially during that period when he left academia and embraced a more nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, that was a huge turning point for him. In 1976, he decided to walk away from his teaching career and just travel, supporting himself through sales and commissions.
It seems like a pretty radical decision, but also incredibly liberating, like he needed to break free from those institutional structures.
And during this time, he collaborated with other artists, most notably Earl Staley and Joe Tate, forming collectives called B&E Productions and the holding firm.
Staley even recounts learning a lot about drawing and composition from Camblin during this period. Those collaborative sessions became like mini master classes.
Yeah, and they had these exhibitions with these really inventive titles like The Tattoo Show, Joe Tate's Backyard, The Camping Show.
They're really playing with ideas, breaking down those traditional boundaries between artist and viewer, high art and everyday life.
And what's really striking is that Camblin often signed these collaborative works as anonymous or anonymous artists.
It's like he's deliberately downplaying his individual ego, emphasizing the collective creative process over personal recognition.
And later, in the 80s, he collaborated with Nancy Giordana to develop Mouches Volantes, using dots and dashes to create optical illusions.
That's so cool. It's like he's constantly experimenting, pushing the boundaries of what art can be, how it can engage the viewer.
It seems like this collaborative period was really essential for his development as an artist.
It allowed him to explore new ideas, new techniques, and to really push back against those traditional notions of authorship and artistic creation.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's talk a bit about Camblin's later life and the lasting impact he's had on the art world.
You know, after his nomadic adventures, he eventually settled in Oregon and then later in Louisiana.
He seems to have become more reclusive, withdrawing from the art scene in Houston, where he'd once been such a prominent figure.
It's almost like he retreated from the spotlight, seeking a quieter existence away from the hustle and bustle.
But even in his absence, his influence continued to resonate. He's been described as a mystical trickster figure, someone who challenged conventions, played with perceptions, and left people wondering.
And there's that quote from George O. Jackson Jr., a photographer and collector, who described Camblin's art as his portal into truly experiencing art. He talked about reading Camblin's works like one would read a book, finding endless layers of meaning and connection.
It goes back to that idea of active engagement, of spending time with the work, letting it unfold and reveal itself over time.
And ultimately, Camblin's legacy seems to be one of encouraging viewers to step outside of those comfortable, familiar ways of seeing the world.
To question assumptions, to embrace ambiguity, to find their own meaning within his often enigmatic and always thought-provoking creations.
So as we reach the end of our deep dive, it's clear that Bob Camblin was more than just a painter, more than just an artist.
He was a thinker, a philosopher, a disruptor, someone who challenged us to see the world anew.
His art wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about sparking conversations, provoking thoughts, inviting us to explore the very nature of perception itself.
And on that note, as you go about your day, I want you to think about how you approach those mysteries in your own life, those things that don't have easy answers.
Do you seek those definitive solutions, those black and white conclusions? Or are you also open to embracing the journey, the exploration, the possibility that the most profound insights are often found in those gray areas, in the in-between spaces?
Maybe, just maybe, like in Camblin's art, the greatest revelations come when we step off that train of thought and learn to truly see with open minds and curious hearts.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep exploring.